Chapter 1 One eye, two eyes, three eyes. There was once a woman who had three daughters, of whom the eldest was named One Eye because she had only one eye in the middle of her forehead. The second had two eyes, like other people, and she was called Two Eyes. The youngest had three eyes, two like her second sister, and one in the middle of her forehead, like the eldest, and she bore the name of Three Eyes. Now, because the little Two Eyes looked just like other people, her mother and sisters could not endure her. They said to her, "You are not better than common folks. With your two eyes, you don't belong to us." So they pushed her about and threw all their old clothes to her for her to wear, and gave her only the pieces that were left to eat, and did everything that they could to make her miserable. So it so happened that little Two Eyes was sent to the fields to take care of the goats, and she was often very hungry, although her
You.
her sisters had as much as they liked to eat. So one day she seated herself on a mound in the field and began to weep and cry so bitterly that two little rivulets flowed from her eyes. Once in the midst of her sorrow, she looked up and saw a woman standing near her, who said, "What are you weeping for, little Two Eyes?" "I cannot help weeping," she replied, "for because I have two eyes like other people, my mother and the sisters cannot bear me. They push me about from one corner to another and make equal. We wear their old clothes and give me nothing to eat but what is left, so that I am always hungry. Today they gave me so little that I am nearly starved. To dry up your tears, little Two Eyes," she said the wise woman, "I will tell you something to do which will prevent you from ever being hungry again. Now, you have only to say to your own goat, 'Little goat, if you're able, pray deck out my table,' and immediately there will be a pretty little table before you, full and sorts of good things for you to eat as much as you like, and when you have had enough and you do not want the table any more, you need only say, 'Little goat, when you are able, remove my nice table, and it will vanish from your eyes.'" Then the wise woman went away. Now, thought little Two Eyes, "I will try if what she says is true, for I am very hungry." So she said, "Little goat, if you will pray deck out my table." The words were scarcely spoken when a beautiful little table stood really before her. It had a white cloth and plates and knives and forks and silver spoons and such a delicious dinner, smoking hot as if it had just come from the kitchen. Then little Two Eyes sat down and said the shortest grace she knew, "Pray God be our guest for all time. Amen. Before she allowed herself to taste anything. But oh, how she did enjoy her dinner. And when she had finished, she said, as the wise woman had taught her, "Little goat, when you are able, remove my nice table." In a moment, a table had and everything upon it had disappeared. This is a pleasant way to keep house, said Little Two Eyes, and felt quite contented and happy. In the evening, when she went home with the goat, she found an earthenware dish with some scraps which her sisters had left for her, but she did not touch them. The next morning she went away with the goat, leaving them behind where they had been placed for her. The first and second times that she did so, the sisters did not notice it, but when they found it happened every day, they said one to the other, "There is something strange about Little Two Eyes. She leaves her supper every day, and all that has been put for her has been wasted. But she must get food somewhere else." So they determined to find out the truth, and they arranged that when Two Eyes Lisa took her goat to the field, One Eye should go with her to take particular notice of what she did and discover if anything was brought for her to eat and drink. So when Two Eyes started with her goat, One Eye said to her, I'm going with you today to see if the goat gets her food properly while you are watching the rest." But Two Eyes knew what she had in her mind. So she drove the goat into the long grass and said, Come, One Eye, let us sit down here and rest, and I will sing to you." One Eye seated herself, and not being accustomed to walk so far or to be out in the heat for the sun, and began to feel tired. As Little Two Eyes kept on singing, she closed her one eye and fell fast asleep. When Two Eyes saw this, she knew that One Eye could not betray her. So she said, "Little goat, if you are able, come and deck my pretty table." She seated herself when it appeared and ate and drank very quickly. And when she had finished, she said, "Little goat, when you are able, come and clear away my table." It vanished in the twinkling of an eye. And then Two Eyes woke up One Eye and said, "Little One Eye, you are a clever one to watch goats for while you are asleep, but they might be running all over the world. Come, let us go home." So they went to the house, and Little Two Eyes again left the scraps on the dish untouched, and One Eye could not tell her mother whether Little Two Eyes had eaten anything in the field, for she said to excuse herself, "I was asleep." The next day the mother said to Three Eyes, "You must go to the field this time and find out whether there is anyone who brings food to Little Two Eyes, for she must eat and drink secretly." So when Little Two Eyes started with her goat, Three Eyes followed and said, I'm going with you today to see if the goats are properly fed and washed. But Two Eyes knew her thoughts, so she led the goat through the long grass to Tired Three Eyes, and at last she said, let us sit down here and rest, and I will sing to you, Three Eyes. She was glad to sit down, for the walk and the heat of the sun had really tired her. As her sister continued her song, she was obliged to close two of her eyes, and they slept, but not the third. In fact, Three Eyes was wide awake with one eye here and heard and saw all that Two Eyes did. For poor little Two Eyes, thinking she was asleep, and said her speech to the goat, and the table came with all the good things on it, and was carried away when Two Eyes had eaten enough, and the cunning Three Eyes saw it all with her own one eye, but she pretended to be asleep when her sister came to wake her and told her that she was going home. That evening, when little Two Eyes again left the supper they placed aside for her, Three Eyes said to her mother, I know where the proud thing gets her good eating and drinking. And then she described all she had the scene in the field. I saw it all with one eye, she said, for she had made my other two eyes closed with her fine singing, but luckily the one of my forehead remained open. Then the envious mother cried out to poor little Two Eyes, you wish to have better food than we. You should lose your wish. She took up a butcher's knife, went out and dug the good little goat in the desert, and it fell dead. When little Two Eyes saw this, it went out into the field, seated herself on a mound, and wept most bitter tears. Presently the wise woman stood again before her and said, little Two Eyes, why do you weep? Ah, she replied, I must weep the goat who every day spread my table so beautifully has been killed by my mother, and I shall have again to suffer from hunger and sorrow. Little Two Eyes said, the wise woman, I will give you some good advice. Go home and ask your sister to give you the inside of the slaughtered goat, and then go and bury it in the ground in front of the house door. On saying this is the wise woman vanished. Little Two Eyes went home quickly and said to her sister, dear sister, give me some part of my poor goat. I don't want anything valuable. Only give me the inside. Her sister laughed and said, of course you can have that if you don't want anything else. So little Two Eyes took the inside, and in the evening, when all was quiet, buried in the ground outside the house door, as the wise woman had told her to do. The next morning, when they all rose and looked out of the window, there stood a most wonderful tree, its leaves of silver and apples of gold hanging between them. Nothing in the wide world could be more beautiful or more costly.